The second conflict of the female mind, the sexual conflict. Women love the physical pleasure of sex, but there are a lot of social consequences of having sex. For instance, being judged by other people, her peers, society, or men, especially the ones she's dating, is not seeing her as marriage potential if she does it too soon. This is critically important because if you meet a girl you like, at some stage, you're going to want to have sex with her. And this conflict, or more specifically, her strategy for dealing with this conflict, is going to determine her entire mindset about sex. Specifically, the reasons why she's going to have sex with you, and also how soon she's going to have sex with you, and under what conditions she'll have sex with you. So I'm sure this is something that you're going to want to know. How a woman deals with a sexual conflict is the key to your escalation strategy, because which strategy she chooses changes your approach dramatically. She loves sex, and she loves the emotional bonding and physical pleasure she receives from it. But sex has had negative consequences like emotional trauma and societal judgment. A woman will also deal with the sexual conflict in two different ways, and it really has to do with how big of a deal she makes sex in her mind. Here's an analogy. Let's say you live in a house with two other roommates, and there's one last piece of delicious chocolate cake in the fridge. You want a piece of the cake, but you don't want to be seen as the greedy, overindulgent guy who eats the last piece. But your indulgence gets the best of you, and you eat it anyway. Now let's say one of your roommates comes home and is super upset about the missing cake. You basically got two choices. First, you can deny it and pretend you didn't actually eat the cake, or you can justify your actions and say something like, "Hey, what's the big deal? It's just a piece of cake." With women and sex, it's exactly the same. If a woman has sex with a guy and then she's hanging out with her friends and they ask her about it, she will deny it. She might say something like, "No, nothing's happened yet," or "We're just dating." The second strategy would be for her to justify her actions. She'll say something like, "Yeah, we did it, but it's not a big deal. I was drunk. And besides, sex isn't that big of a deal anyway." She's going to deny the sex happening or justify the reasons why it happened and that it wasn't a big deal. Deny or justify. D or J. Sex feels really, really good for a woman, but there's a lot of social consequences for her to do that. They will either block it out and deny it's happened, or they will come up with reasons to justify why it was okay. This explains why some women end up sleeping with much more guys than others. Deniers, on one hand, pretend that sex doesn't happen, they suppress their ideas about sex, and generally make it harder for guys to have sex with them, while justifiers see sex as insignificant and let it happen many, many more times. Deny or justify. D or J.